focused. Mine on the road.
You don't have to be focused on the road.
What the fuck are you talking about? You don't got to be focused on the road.
If you're on a long road trip, you're not like focused on the road. You're not fucking 10 and 2. You're not 10 and 2. You're not 10 and 2 for 8 hours.
I think cruise control.
You're a fucking nerd. If you're 10 and 2, you're a nerd.
I'm not 10 and 2. I do one hand on the wheel, one hand on the stick.
But being 10 and 2 doesn't mean that's the only time you're focused.
Dude, you're not telling me you just like laps out for like.
No.
You're like, holy shit, I'm like 12 miles down the road.
I think you have a problem.
No,
this is a known. This is a known thing. You can look it up. Like psychologists know this phenomenon.
Your coffee is spiked. We figured it out. You're drunk driving on your road trips.
Hey, Oliver, District Divided may turn into a full-time gig. One of our guys doesn't even focus when he drives.
Don't focus when I do this show either. Still 4-1 still 4-1 on the fucking dollar bets.
In DC, we're just hoping that you listen.
Welcome to District Divided, everybody. I am Amit Singh. Joining me, the usual suspects -1, but we have Matt Regan, we have K-Dot, we have LC, and Spencer is out backpacking. So we have Oliver Samuel Jacobus, Oliver Sam Jack, a good friend of mine from growing up, very knowledgeable on all things sports. He's a DC guy as well. Good to have you on, How are you doing today?
Hey, I appreciate you having me. First time, long time. Excited to get to talking with you boys. Been listening to the pod for the last couple, what's it been? Almost a year or over a year now. And really enjoying all the hot takes, all the dollar bets. Can't wait to chop it up with you guys.
All right, perfect. Well, really glad you're on. And the topics today, now we are a DC sports podcast, not a whole lot going on in DC sports. So we'll get to that at the end in the State of the Union. We're covering Mystics, Spirit, Nats, football team, you name it. We cover it. But we're going to begin with the NBA playoffs. We're then going to talk about the NHL playoffs. And then Carl Nassib made some waves nationally, not only in the sports world, but just the general population in general. So we're going to talk about him coming out and maybe the potential impact for other athletes moving forward. But as I said, we are beginning with the NBA playoffs. And Kadeen, I want to start with you because Ben Simmons, who you apparently would bat for, every single day and twice on Sunday, didn't have himself a really great end to that series.
Yeah, that's one way to put it, Amit. As a guy who spent a very long time defending Ben, I can officially say I'm no longer doing so. It's over. Okay. Now here's the thing. I'm not gonna. It's taken me some time to cool down because right after that last game where we saw the play that of all plays where he had the layup and just pass it off was one of those what the fuck moments, right? It was one of those things where my blood was boiling. I'm not even a 76ers fan. I just don't like to be that wrong about things. But when you had Ben do that, it just ate away at my soul, and it was seething fire and anger, right? Afterward, then you hear what Doc says after game and everything. I've calmed down a bit, and this is where this is the conclusion I have. While I'm not going to bat for Ben, I'm also not going to go as far as to say that I hate the dude or that I actually think he's going to not exist as anything anymore. This is where it comes down to. Ben is just as much his fault right now looking at that situation as I look at Doc fucking Rivers. Because there's got to be a common denominator in this shit as far as blowing these leads that you have when it comes to these series. Not to mention, you can't be Doc Rivers defending Ben Simmons to the extent that you were to the reporter saying you don't know anything about basketball when it came to Ben, and then you're throwing his ass under the bus. And I know for sure today when Stephen A. Smith was on the show saying that he got a text that Ben Simmons is not necessarily the most focused, we know where that text came from. Doc, get off the fucking burner and coach the goddamn players and make sure the team is where it needs to be. But I think that right now, if you look at the situation of Philly's end, Ben tanked his entire draft value, trade value right now. Who the hell is going to trade for Ben Simmons? And when you see Daryl Morey in that conference today, just basically letting everybody know that this is what we're doing, we're going to evaluate the team, we're going to do this, that, and the other. I think what you need to do is you need to handcuff Doc Rivers and Ben Simmons together, and they are spending this entire fucking offseason because there is no real way out of this other than Ben learning to shoot. There's no other way.
You have to keep Ben Simmons.
You have to.
This would be the worst time to trade him. Yeah. There's nowhere near. I mean, he is at the end of the day. Yes, this was a. Don't forget his first series was pretty good. He was averaging 15, 10, and 10. Which, if you can do that every single day as a point guard, that's going to take you. That is a I would say potentially championship caliber point guard, and then he just disappeared. I mean, it was terrible. And I'm a big Ben Simmons fan. Everything about him, I like him. I like him just on paper so much. And honestly, after I cooled down for a few days, I was like UKD, and I was like kind of trashing him for a day. I kind of want the Pistons to trade for him. I think he's a great player. I still see the potential. What I like about Ben Simmons is it's such an obvious fix. It's such a clear flaw that I still think you should keep it running, because there's no sense in trading him now. No team's gonna like really throw the farm at him, and people are talking about he's like not even gonna be in the NBA in 5 years or whatever. So I think keep on him in the Sixers, fix it, and I think he's still gonna be a stud next year. That's my take.
Well, see, here's the thing. And I already came out and said I hate Ben Simmons because you can see what he can be, right? And it's been this way for 5 years now. This is the moment for him, the defining moment. It wasn't this series. It's what he's going to do now that the series is over. The entire world is done with this guy. The entire sports world is like, Ben Simmons sucks. And they're all in agreement. And Philly's like, we got to get rid of him. I agree. They should keep him. And if he isn't motivated by the entire world against him and him going, you know what, I'm going to prove people wrong, then you have to be fully out on the guy. Because this is it. This to me really is it. He can still be great. Maybe they try playing him at power forward or sometimes at center. Maybe he's just not the point guard everyone wants him to be. He didn't necessarily ask for that. When he was at LSU, he did some ball handling, but he also played a lot of forward. So maybe you just need to mix it up with the guy a little bit. But yeah, I just want to see him put in the effort, because at this point, it's just sad. Initially, it was more fun to hate on Ben Simmons. Right now, it's just sad. It's, to me, crazy.
I had to bring up the same topic every time I talk about these players. But to me, it's not just a matter of going to the gym and shooting. I think the guy literally needs a sports psychologist. Let's start with that. Because first of all, not shooting in the entire fourth quarter for like all 7 games, like that's not like, oh, he's shooting poorly. That's he has no confidence in shooting, right? He's not even trying to shoot. And that play that Kadeem was mentioning, I mean, that was just like, that would be the cover of the book, right? Like he's not trying to shoot. And so for me, I would think that, of course, he's got to go to the gym, do the shooting, sure, do the whole drill and everything. But I think they got to figure out a little bit what you were saying. I mean, like, where does he feel comfortable? Where does he actually feel like he can contribute to the team? And just got to get his mind right. Like, I would honestly hire some sports psychologist, somebody who can work with him one-on-one and get him on the right mindset, because not shooting when the game is on the line, when the series is on the line, when you're supposed to be, I mean, the point guard, even just by position, is a leader. When you're not doing that on purpose, right? Like you're not trying to be a leader, it's not just going to come out of nowhere. You have to own that moment. And I think you can't build a team around somebody who doesn't seem to want the rock in the fourth quarter.
And that's the thing, is that like you can see in this fourth quarter, it's not even like, it was one thing when it was the confidence of the shot, but now he's so afraid to go to the free throw line and like embarrass himself in front of people that you are now a legit liability on the court. Like it's not, hey, your skill set, we can still afford to keep you in here to do anything. No, you are actively hurting the hell out of the team by being out there on the court, because you're afraid of every aspect of the game at that point. And the thing is, it's so frustrating is that like, this is not hyperbole. If Ben developed a shot, he is this generation's Magic Johnson. Like he has that skill set. Like there is his size and to be able to do the things that he does defensively, even passing. Like you hear the stories about his dad teaching him how to shoot with his left hand, and you got guys like JJ Redick that have been trying to teach him to shoot with his right, and it won't sink in. Then you also have that Stephen A. Smith, Doc Rivers text that came through today, which is just that he's not doing the things off the court that he needs to do, and he doesn't have anybody holding him accountable in that way. I
mean, did you guys see that video of him shooting pregame that came out? Yeah, where it was after Game 4, and he's just like not. That's their pregame shoot around. And like you see the videos of Kyrie and Steph where it's like, yes, they're having fun, but like they're going through a routine where they're clearly practicing to get better. And you saw him, who's not on their level in terms of skill and like has way more to work around. And he's just like 1 foot, one-handed, just like lollipopping up these shots. It had nothing to do with him going in or not. It's like he's not even trying.
He's not trying.
Right.
He's not trying. There's no effort there.
And granted, that was a single clip. So I don't want to say that's how he
But the
practices.
thing, we've all seen, like, you get the video that leaks in the offseason. Oh shit, Ben Simmons is throwing down three, and it's like, no, man, like there's something wrong. There's something legitimately wrong with this dude that you can see. Like you let everybody down, and there's no city that I least like to let anybody down in the city he's playing in. Like, if he doesn't get it right, I'm sure some South Philly youngers with lead pipes are going to let him know what the hell is up. Like, it's just, get your shit together. It's ridiculous. Ridiculous.
But also, I think a big part of this, and people talk about it a little bit, they should talk about it a whole lot more. I think there's a rift between Simmons and Embiid. They don't seem to get along. There are a lot of rumors that they don't get along, and I think Ben just switched off. Oliver, I want your take, though, because you know our Ben Simmons takes. What are your thoughts on Ben Simmons?
Yeah, I got to agree with LC. It's totally in the head. I mean, I think we're all sort of echoing the same statement that he is just not confident in the basketball, shooting the basketball, wanting the ball. Like LC was saying, you know, the point guard's got to be the leader. The point guard's got to be the one to go to at least either shoot, create a shot, get foul, get to the line, distribute the ball, make the correct decisions. You see it, you know, with other point guards across the league, whether it's CP3, you know, look at what Devin Booker has done in place of CP3. Look at Steph, everybody, you know, that's the person who really controls the game and the team. And Ben Simmons, for whatever reason, is just not confident in playing ball. And, you know, one thing I found interesting, I think it was stated today in the news, is that Ben Simmons said he's not going to go to Tokyo. He's not going to represent Australia in the Olympics. And so I wonder if that's a good thing for him, get some rest, and also, you know, maybe get a sports psychologist, maybe start focusing on the free throws, or, you know, would playing more basketball really benefit him?
Yeah, and it sounds like he's skipping it to play more basketball and develop his skills. At least that was the reason cited. Personally, if I were him, if I were not psychologically damaged enough, because it looked damaging. It looked damaging on the court. But if I had it in me, I would absolutely want to go, especially because I do buy into that rift, which makes me think. And Daryl Morey did try and ship Ben Simmons this past offseason. Again, those rumors of Simmons, Harden, Simmons, whomever. Daryl Morey, we know he loves his shooters. Ben Simmons is not a shooter. Even if he works his ass off, he's not going to become a shooter. He could become okay, but he's not going to be a shooter. So we're going to see what happens here. It's very intriguing, but there was still, like Oliver alluded to, many other really good games, matchups. CP3 and the Phoenix Suns look impossible to guard right now. Those guys are playing so well. Devin Booker looks great. And I got to shout out, I know Spencer's backpacking and he cannot wait to see this. I'm going to show the dollar bet standings right now. Once again, you guys can't see it, but LC officially on the board at 1-0. The Hawks came through for him and me, but I'm all the way down at 1-3. The Brooklyn Nets really let me down. I even thought I was getting a free dollar off of Spencer when I said dollar bet Nets over Bucks when they were up 2-0. But injuries hit, and honestly, it's not an excuse. They're too talented to have lost that series. Go ahead, LC.
If I'm done betting, I'm at 100%. I may just need you to pull now. Never bet again. I'm out, man. Stop the count, baby.
What an attitude. I have a question. When did these get paid out? Because
well, so the moment you get
rent checks are coming up.
Okay, easy there. But the moment you get to +5 difference, okay, so you're at 4-1 right now, as you could see earlier. Once you get to like 6-1, once you're at that +5 range, we'll figure it out from there. Okay, that's when you can redeem.
You can redeem.
So Matt Regan, you were $2 away from getting a big payout. But I want to talk about those Phoenix Suns real quick because they look insanely good. Oliver, since you touched on them, do you think that they are the NBA title favorites right now? Do you think they are the title favorites, or do you think there is another team that is the favorite?
I would say they have to be the favorite. They are playing some good basketball right now. You know, what they did game 1 without CP3. I know it was a close game, but Booker, he looks like he's on a mission. Love to see Ayton grow. He's really turning into that top, whatever, 3 pick he was. I really like them. I like them a lot. Have to give it to the Bucks too. They look pretty strong coming out of the East. Those would be my 2 picks. And I think that would be a very fun series to watch. But I think the Suns definitely shoot the ball well, are explosive. They get up and down the court quickly. I just love what they're doing overall. Absolutely.
Yeah. Matt, what do you think? Do you think the Suns are the favorites, or do you also maybe say the Bucks instead?
Win it all? I don't even know. Are the Suns even the favorites out of the West? I still like the Clippers.
Well, Kawhi's out. And oh, by the way, real quick on the Clippers, amazingly impressive. Kawhi goes down, and they end up going 2-0 in those final 2 games of their series. Terrence Mann steps up.
Oh my
And
God.
I was so high on the Jazz. The last 2 weeks have just been real rough for my predictions.
Yeah.
Good Lord, it's been bad.
I feel like you've given a plenty of kisses of death in the last month. I feel like every team you bet on has just
And
been
I got to apologize to
surprised
LC.
me.
We became a Faku Denver Nuggets podcast.
Fuck
They get
you.
swept.
I would put the Bucks
Come on.
as the favorites, just because I think that they're the biggest favorite in their conference matchup. You know, I think they're bigger favorites over the Hawks than the Suns are over the Clippers. If it were to come down to a head-to-head matchup,
I see what you mean.
I think I would still take the Bucks. I really like where the Bucks are at. Good win over them. The weird thing is about that win, crazy. We haven't even talked about Game 7 yet, which was
Amazing.
I don't know, like a top 5 game of all time that I've seen from neutral. No one's even really no one's even talking about the Bucks in that win. And I know Harden was limited, Irving was out, but like it was still a great win. Giannis was unreal. Like I feel like no one's even saying he went off for like 38 and 12 every single game, right?
I'm pretty sure he hit 40.
Well, averages across the series, I don't know what they were. I think he had a bad game too, where he had like 18. Every other game other than that, he was on fire. Unreal series from him because his supporting cast, Chris Middleton, was kind of trash except for Game 6.
Chris Middleton started playing real well. I mean, he was really good at the end of Game 7 too.
At the end of Game 7, he was bad through 3 quarters. He had a good 4th quarter.
Yeah, I mean that's when you need to be good.
Someone's got to get you there.
Well,
closing
out's huge.
Suns to me still the pick because I think Devin Booker has, like I've been saying, ascended. He is now the next level. Where we're talking about if this playoffs is supposed to be sort of the change of the guard, he's at the vanguard of this shit to me. Like he's right there at the front. I still think the best player in the Western Conference right now is Paul George overall, but without Kawhi there, Ayton kind of coming on, I don't see Phoenix just the momentum that they have right now and how much fun they're having playing is infectious, and it's hard to get beyond that. The same way that I think LA, if we really want to look at once Kawhi went down, the MVPs to me of that were Ty Lue and the LA fans. Staples Center was rocking, man. My thing with the Clippers has always been Kawhi's not a rah guy. Paul George tries to be a rah guy, but most of the guys tell him to shut the fuck up. When you had the fans kind of get behind that team like that, you could just see Terrence Mann, all those dudes were just feeling it, but Phoenix, same sort of deal, and they've just been riding this hot hand the entire way through the playoffs. So I'm rolling with them. As far as the Milwaukee thing goes, I still stand firm that Milwaukee right now has the worst coach in the playoffs, and I'm sticking with that. I still think that the way that they use Giannis is idiotic. I still think Giannis taking threes is a terrible thing. I still think what they need to be doing is posting him up, and especially if they make it to the finals and it is against the Suns, seeing what he needs to do against Ayton in the paint is going to be something that really needs to be paid attention to. Game 7 there for the Bucks, I think it was just a war of attrition at that point. Bud did not do enough adjustments for that team to really say that they should have won that Game 7. If you look at that Brooklyn team, they lost too many guys. Harden was a hobbled man for the last how many games? You look at Kyrie's not there. The fact that KD put that team on his back and got them to that's the big story as far as anything was how great KD was. But you can't keep doing it. I think they lucked out more than anything else because there were a lot of adjustments they should have been making with Giannis and taking 6 shots from 3? Too many shots.
What adjustments? This is just coming. What adjustments should have been made?
Well, that's what he's saying. He's saying that he wants Giannis more in the paint. He wants to see the threes stop. I think some of that Giannis is just choosing to do. Like, he seems to be very open and decides to do it. And in the long run, by the way, that suits his game incredibly well. You talk about contrasting Ben Simmons and Giannis. Giannis stays aggressive. He airballs some free throws, but he still keeps attacking and still gets
confidence.
to the line.
He's
got the confidence. Exactly.
He's confident.
But that's why he takes it. Right, that's why he takes. I don't think Bud is telling him, "Hey, Giannis, why don't you pull up?" Like,
but I think
he's choosing.
My thing is that pick and roll bullshit that him and Drew do that doesn't work. Compared to what it is he could do, it's the same thing that we talked about on the last pod. Because Shaq said it. The idea that Giannis's frame and what he can do when he backs somebody down, who's stopping that? When you can't stop that. You can't. There's nobody in the NBA that can stop him. That speed and that power, that combination, that's what they need to be doing with this dude. But they don't do it. They still play this finesse sort of ball where they could be just right, because they play great defense. They play really good defense. Giannis is a defensive player of the year. What was he, last year, 2 years ago? Drew Holiday has been amazing on the defensive end. I don't understand. And then you look at some of the defensive matchups in this last game. Where was Giannis on KD a lot of the time? Like, I didn't understand a lot of what the coaching was entailing, as much as he was just hoping the talent would take them over the bars. I'm sorry. They come up against Phoenix, it's going to take more than just the talent.
No, I think that's fair. Now, real quick, does anybody have any concern with the Atlanta Hawks beating the Milwaukee Bucks?
Like, is anyone taking the Hawks?
Yeah, that's my question. Is anyone taking the Hawks? Kadeen is not.
Nope. I'm taking the Bucks.
Nope. Okay,
Right.
so everyone sort of feels like it's going to be Bucks versus.
If Atlanta pulls it off, is anybody completely surprised? Like, it's not mind blowing to me. I mean, look,
it's not mind blowing, but yeah, I'd be surprised.
Look,
I would
Sixers,
I would be about just as surprises if they.
But the
Trae
Sixers
Young
were
is one of the most
clearly
intriguing people in the league right now, I think. Because, like, I've been on the fence today. I don't think Trae Young is there yet, but it's kind of hard to say he isn't with a lot of what he's doing game in and game out. I don't know. Like, he's just a very intriguing figure, and I think there's some crazy stuff that's just happening with him this year. I wouldn't be blown away if they were to manage to pull off something crazy.
Well, look, I'm not going to talk down the Hawks too much because they were my only dollar bet win last week. But here's the thing: the Sixers were the better team. I mean, they were up 18, they were up 26 in two separate games that they lost. Okay. They should not have lost that series.
They didn't win those games.
Well, yeah, Ben Simmons, we talked about it. So that's like, I don't think that they're now going to face a team that can shoot, that has Giannis down the middle, that is unstoppable. And from the Bucks' perspective, from PJ Tucker's perspective, he's like, thank the Lord there's no KD to guard anymore. His series just got a whole lot easier. I think the Bucks are going to be so happy not to be facing these Nets. They may drop one early and be like, oh, whoa, okay, we got to wake up. But then I think they're going to cruise. They're going to cruise. LC, what do you think? So Bucks versus who? Which team in the West do you think is facing them in the finals?
I do think the Bucks. And I'm with Kadeen on Devin Booker. I mean, it hurt to watch him just walk all over Manu. Oh, Facu, sorry, same thing. And
did you get it confused? Did you get his name confused?
He got his Argentinians confused.
Utah Nuggets fan, you.
Equally great. Hey, wait.
Ball of all Argentinian idols in my brain. What?
As soon as you're done, I do have a question. LC, do you think Manu is a Hall of Famer?
Come on, of course he's a Hall of Famer.
It's not, of course. It's definitely not, of course.
Oh my God. Okay. What? That's just
you're
just
trying to
trigger me.
I'm not even
trying to $1 bet.
What?
Are you serious?
He's gonna be.
Why is he a guaranteed Hall of Famer?
Because they let anybody in.
All right, so that is your best. Fine.
Moving the
That's
game
good
forward as an Argentinian, multiple-time NBA champion. Part of that victory with Duncan and Parker.
Part of the big three. How many All-Stars do you think he made, Amit?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure, but he's a Hall of Famer.
I think he's
a Hall of Famer.
I think for sure. One All-Star game.
Okay. Well, anyway, we're gonna move on in just a moment. Oliver
been,
is Manu Ginobili. Hold on. Oliver, is Manu Ginobili a Hall of Famer? He's going to be the final verdict here.
No, he gets in. Manu definitely gets in.
He gets in. All right.
What is he? Does he have a fucking vote? What are we seeing his opinion?
All right, just quick rundown on Manu. 4-time NBA champion, 2-time NBA All-Star, 2-time NBA third team. Sixth man of the year, all rookie second team.
Yeah, he's
It
gonna.
doesn't
he's
matter.
Gonna be
Those are the
home.
accolades.
He was just
Done a bunch of
iconic in
foreign
the Big
shit
Three.
that don't matter.
So
foreign.
he does have a gold medal.
Italy.
I think that is like his saving
Yes.
grace. Dude,
Yes.
just having 4 NBA championships is like
Shut the fuck
But
up.
it's not
There's
like-
just 4
But it's
NBA
not like he was.
championships.
It's not like he was on the bench or something. He was like
Yeah,
a part
he
of
was on the
team.
bench. He literally was on the bench.
Sixth
to
man,
start
but he's
the-
also
Not for
starting
all-
some games too.
Yeah.
Okay, you know what? This is a fantastic argument, and we're going to continue this another time when we do Dwight Howard and Manu Ginobili, and we compare the resumes.
Obviously,
Okay,
Dwight
please
is a much
don't-
better Hall of Fame.
Matt,
case
Don't
than
put
Lon.
that- those
We're
two in the
about
same
to we're
sentence.
about to move on to a topic you would really enjoy, and that's the NHL
Oh,
playoffs.
true.
Okay, we've got the Western Conference Finals, Eastern Conference Finals. We got the Montreal Canadiens. At the time of this recording, playing a huge Game 5. Series is tied 2-2 with the Las Vegas Golden Knights. And then in the East, we have the Tampa Bay Lightning with a 3-2 series lead. They play tonight against the New York Islanders. Now, the Lightning just whooped the Islanders' ass 8-0. So, Matt, I'm going to begin with this. Do the Islanders recover? Do they have a chance in this series? Is it a brand new game, or is 8-0 such a psychological hit to them that it's over?
It's not that the 8-0 game. They just never had a chance. They're just nowhere near as good on paper as Tampa. Tampa's the best team on paper. They were fine through the regular season, and they added Kucherov, probably a top 10 player in the league, come the playoffs, and they've just been kind of rolling. They're just. I mean, they were my preseason prediction. They were my post regular season prediction. They're just a great team on paper. They're rolling. So much depth. I mean, their back line of Hedman, McDonough, Sergachev, Vasilevsky, the best goaltender in the league. And then up top, you just roll up Braden Point, goals in 7 straight games. Dude's a stud. Dude's just a playoff performer. Throw in Kucherov, throw in Stamkos, throw in all their role players like Yanni Gordon, Alex Killorn. They're just stacked. And New York is shout out Barry Trotz. He just gets like
Love Barry Trotz.
bad teams, not bad teams. That's a lot of disrespect
Easy
to the Islanders.
there.
But like teams that aren't that good to play to a good level. Maybe that's what the Caps are. Maybe the Caps are not actually a good team, and he just got them to play above their weight.
Easy there.
but it's been a good run. But I see them closing it out in 6, and 8-0 is just I think that is an exception. I don't think that was really. I think they're just a tough team to play against. But I see Tampa closing it out in 6.
Okay, and what about on the other side, Canadiens, Golden Knights? What do you see there?
Similar situation where Vegas is so much better on paper. The Canadiens are going on this amazing run. I think it's easier to explain because they have Carey Price, who is
There's a team literally called Canadians. Like they couldn't come
Les
up with anything
Habitants des Canadiens. All right, they are Montreal. They're the heart and soul.
Can we make a franchise called the Gringos as well? Just to like.
I don't know. Yeah, throw some closed captions on that pronunciation. Yeah, they're just called the Montreal Canadiens, which is, I don't know, maybe just the French Canadians view themselves as like they are the real Canadians, and the rest of the English speaking Canadians are just posers. I don't know how it goes up there.
Sorry, I had to interrupt. That just sounded real weird. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, but that being said, they kind of went on this miracle run. They beat Toronto, which was an upset in round 1. They beat Winnipeg, which is a smaller upset in round 2. And they've been hanging with Vegas. They've actually looked really good against Vegas, but I still like Vegas. It's a very similar situation. Like there's a team that's better on paper, and then they're eventually going to lose to the team or the team that's better on paper is eventually going to beat the team that's worse on paper. So I like it. Canadians got a little lucky in game 3, that Marc-Andre Fleury mistake. I don't think it'll happen again. Leonard's in net. I like the Knights. And Knights Lightning, that is an all-time finals.
Okay. And so here's the funny part. It's an all-time finals, but I don't think enough people are paying attention to the NHL, right? When you compare it to the NBA, like Kadeen,
Yeah.
LC saying
fair.
there's a team called the Canadiens. What the heck does the NHL have to do to gain popularity again? Because it used to be awesome, and then all those lockouts happened. So I'm curious about your take there, Matt.
So, I mean, I think at the end of the day, it always comes down to how well you market your stars, right? So we had a podcast a long time ago where – long time ago. It was probably like 3 episodes ago where it said, like, do you guys know who Connor McDavid is? Nathan McKinnon. You guys don't know who these players are, and they are generational players. Like, you guys probably know Crosby, probably know Ovechkin because they've been around for 15 years. But, LC, when you talked about why you like NBA, what you're looking forward to. It's sometimes you just like the player drama that goes on, and like they showcase their players really well because they have awesome players. They have awesome personalities. Like you see them going behind the scenes. You see Russell Westbrook just like walking in, looking cool, and like making comments.
So,
and
I
Kevin,
can see
like
that.
you like kind of like the pettiness with Kevin Durant, and you're like, likewise, like that adds to it. In
And
terms
not
of the
to
actual
get-
on the court product, let me finish.
Go
Let me
ahead.
Finish.
Because
But I think there's a lot that in the NBA that's kind of boring. Like the first 3 quarters can be boring, and like you like the last fourth quarter. Of course, that's great. Much like you like overtime in hockey. But there's a lot of games that aren't close, and yet you follow it because I think of how much the players are showcased. And NHL does a poor job of that. You got to have the personality speak up more. You've got to have kind of more controversy in the offseason. That's really what kind of builds it up.
But I feel like, and this is again from somebody who like struggles to watch an NHL game, there may be a thing there too that like the players look so not unique because they're wearing all of that gear. Like they all, to me,
interesting.
to the untrained eye, they all look the same, right? Like I can't tell who's who. I mean, it's just the same color helmet and everything down, and it's just all right. Whoever's coming in and out, I have no idea. So like, it's harder for me to be like, oh, I feel like I know who I'm watching. I know who to look for. If I'm watching the NBA and I don't know much about the NBA, I may still recognize LeBron. When Ovechkin comes in and you're not like, you're watching NHL, like you don't know he just came in. Like it's just like another dude wearing another helmet. I can't see his face. To me, it feels really like impersonal for some reason. It may be the gear. I feel a little bit that way with football, but less because they have like other things to be distinct. But I don't know. To me, as the untrained eye, I feel like that. I'm not saying you shouldn't wear any gear, of course not. But I'm just saying to the untrained eye, it feels like I have no idea who is coming in and out.
That's actually a really good point because hockey is also just very fluid. So like there's so much time where the play is ongoing, and like in the NBA, for example, someone could sub in. There's free throws. They get time. They get face time with those guys and things like that. In football, there's 40 seconds between plays, and you get plenty of like crowd reaction. You FaceTime. You look at the Peyton Manning's face, for example, back in the day. Like you could do that, but it's so much harder to do in hockey. That's a really good point. Kadeem, what do you want to say?
That has a lot to do with it. I mean, the NFL is a unique thing because of the amount of eyes that just watch the sport. Not to mention as far as like the video games, everybody's just kind of involved. Not to mention most of these athletes, NFL and NBA, are heavy on social media. They give access to themselves quite a bit. I don't think it has anything to do with the league sometimes. There are some things the league can do to probably help out. Like if I'm the NHL, I lean heavy into like Barstool or like where other white guys are listening to shit that want to get involved in this. There's also this element that like almost what LC is saying. I think to the untrained eye, you can't really tell on the ice who's a great player compared to a not so great player. Like you're watching the NFL, even though the guys wear helmets, you can see that dude's faster than that dude, or that dude does something crazy, and it's very easy to translate like, holy shit, I just saw something special. Compared to the NHL, where I think there has to be a little bit more knowledge about the game for you really to respect some of the higher tier guys compared to some of the guys that can't do it. And the NBA is just different because, I mean, shit, you go to an NBA game, it's one of those things where it's so great to watch because you see the guys with the tattoos, they're really close, they're right in front of you. It's very personalized, very individual. That's the way the NBA rocks. I mean, shit, players mean more than the teams do in the NBA at this point.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Kadeem, would you say it's similar to like offensive or defensive line play where like I'm not that trained and like there's good plays.
Yeah.
Like, there's a reason why no one could name like offensive guards around the league because I don't know what a good play is. There's nothing flashy. Like they're not very
but I can
marketable,
also name a few because my fantasy team relies on it. For example, I need my quarterback protected.
Right. There's
wide receivers to get time.
There's so many things that kind of get you to understand at least a little bit more. Like, if I put a Trent Williams highlight reel, you'll notice that he's doing something that other guys aren't doing, right? But
any highlight reel.
But I get it. But I'm saying that like I understand to a certain degree. But it's a little harder. But I think what makes it easier is even though it sucks every year, everybody picks up Madden. They give the players ratings. You kind of just, along with the zeitgeist, just say, all right, this is a good player compared to this is a bad player. Like, you don't even know what you're watching half the time, but they just, I'm just assuming this guy's better than that guy. This is how many times you get into arguments with somebody about offensive and defensive line play, and they have no fucking idea what anything is. They're basically, he's rated really high on Madden. Like, that's pretty much it.
Literally never.
Anyway, before we move on, Oliver, I want your take real quick. Do you think the NHL can improve its popularity in certain ways that we're discussing, or what do you think? And also, because I know you follow hockey as well, do you have any thoughts on the series going on right now?
Yeah, so I think the NHL definitely needs to pump the stars. I mean, that's what sells. They need to promote these players better. And I don't know if that comes down to, who's carrying the games. I think if you had it on ESPN or another major television provider, it might be a little bit better. I think, NBC is the only major one that carries them. And then, various smaller local networks carry them. But really promoting the stars is what they need to do. I mean, look, playoff hockey is some of the most intense, physical, jam-packed, nonstop action in sports. So it should be more exciting. It should be more watched, and it's not. And it's disappointing that it's not as watched. I mean, Vegas, Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, their first year, they were big into the theatrics before the game. I don't know if they're still doing that or not. I mean, I'm sure it costs a boatload of money and stuff, but that got people watching. People were watching to see what they were doing. And they're not doing that anymore.
What were they doing?
Well, they would have
Figure skating on ice.
Yeah, kind of like nights coming out before and be a show and be a whole
bring
thing.
them down onto the ice. It was outrageous.
Yeah, it was crazy. But Vegas still has.
They had swords.
So Vegas,
like a
Vegas
halftime
has
show, but before
some medieval times.
Exactly.
On ice.
Yeah, pretty much.
Couldn't you pay to see that? Come on.
But Vegas still has one of the top atmospheres, if not the top, because A, they're the first team in Vegas, and B, they're Vegas born, is the saying. And I think they like the Raiders, and they'll, I'm sure, love that stadium and whatnot. But yeah, I think Vegas sees the Golden Knights as their own team, not inherited from another city.
But they've also been really fucking good too.
They've also been insane. Yeah, they've gone to they've at least won one playoff series every single round. Already gone to a Stanley Cup Finals. Probably going to go again.
Was that pregame show on TV as well? Could you watch it?
You could see clips.
Okay.
I honestly don't think that stuff matters as much because the proper circumstance, I get that, but there is an element, and we've talked about this before. Almost every other sport has made the viewing experience at home almost better than going to the game. Hockey isn't there. It is clearly better to go see it in person. It'll ever be on TV. I don't know how you fix that to make it more entertaining on TV, because you really have to know about the game in order to really get and understand. It's high, it's fast paced. There's a lot of shit happening. And most of the time I'm just all right, I guess the guy will score eventually. I don't know. It's hard to really comprehend or watch. You can't slow it down. With the NFL, there's a play. Then we break down the play. We got the replays of that play from all different angles. In basketball, just people slam dunking the ball from 360-degree angles. It's just exciting. Hockey, you can barely tell where the fuck the puck is, and you don't know what's happening when you're watching it on TV.
So crazy idea. They should put a camera in the puck and have that as a viewing option.
It's a bad idea.
It's just rolling.
That's why we never put fans.
You
come up with trash ideas like this.
The NHL,
our fans come with trash ideas.
The NHL.
These are the PWL that leaving comments in our fucking section. That are trash ideas as well.
Wait, you could put a camera on, a body cam on the ref, which happens in some sports. That could be really close. On the, when they drop it, whatever they do, it's
If I'm the NHL, I'm asking Vince McMahon, how can we make this more entertaining? Because the reason I say that is XFL. XFL used to do some pretty innovative stuff that wasn't cheap, crazy, pomp and circumstance stuff. They were actually hey, this is making a certain portion of the game a lot more entertaining to watch. And I think that they just create. You need some creative minds to think about camera angles, to think about, hey, how can we make this more of an enjoyable at-home viewing experience? I just think they need some people whose minds are outside the box.
So I would say this. So Ollie, to your point, it's only been on NBC for pretty much since the lockout in 05. It's going to ESPN and TBS next year, or TNT. So I was hoping TNT would bring something Inside the NBA, which I think brings a lot of people to watch NBA games. Unfortunately, they're bringing in pretty traditional heads. They're bringing in Wayne Gretzky, who's not really known to be he's not a Charles Barkley. He's not a Shaq. He's maybe a Kenny Smith, who will have the occasional clip, but Kenny Smith can't really carry Inside the NBA by himself. So I don't think it's going to be a great show like Inside the NBA is, but maybe they'll change it. I think TNT is at least open to have that type of show. So
they need a Pat McAfee. They need a big
Yeah,
cat. They need
actually.
somebody who has a fandom and can get some people riled up and start talking about it. NHL, like, to me, the big mark is Twitter. Like, there's NHL playoffs. How many times are they trending on anything?
I wouldn't be shocked if they go after the Spin Chicklets guys. I mean, they have a huge following there. Ryan Whitney, I think, would be perfect for the show.
They need to
see if it
tie
goes
themselves to something like that from an entertainment standpoint, just to get people more excited about it. Because then, depending on who they have, like, all right, I'll tune in. Shit, even get Charles Barkley, pay him a bunch of money and tell him to come on there and just talk about hockey.
That was
from
crazy.
a Charles Barkley fucking perspective. I love that shit.
He would. I bet he would.
I'm sure
he definitely would.
He would have fun with it. But anyway, let's move on from the NHL. So again, two very tight series over there. Matt is predicting Las Vegas Golden Knights against the Tampa Bay Lightning in the finals, with Tampa Bay winning it all. We'll see if that happens. Now, moving on to some pretty historic news. For the first time, an active NFL player, so meeting an NFL player on a roster, has come out as gay, and his name is Carl Nassib. He's with the Oakland Raiders. You may know him as the compound interest guy on Hard Knocks back with the Cleveland Browns. So this is huge news. Now, we had Michael Sam come out while he was in the draft process, and he was supposed to be a 3rd or 4th round pick, and he ended up going undrafted. And I think he got a shot with the St. Louis Rams I think it was at the time the St. Louis Rams. He ends up getting cut in camp. But this is big because he's actually locked into a contract. Oliver, I'm going to start with you here. Do you think this is the start of change in the NFL and maybe across major sports? Because this is the NFL we're talking about. The NFL is king. Do you think this is a sign of change for us?
I hope so. I really do. First, like to say that I'm proud of Carl Nassib, fellow Penn State alum. Really happy that he finally felt comfortable to come out and say say his position and where he's at. Hopefully, and based on all the social media and responses that he's received from his fellow teammates and other people across the league, former coaches, it's all been very positive. So that was great to see. I do believe it's a good sign that an active player has come out, and hopefully it normalizes things, and hopefully, one day soon, it's no longer, an ESPN push notification that this is big news, that it certainly doesn't matter. It's a sport, it's a game, it's played on the field or on a court. And really all that matters is if you produce and if you put up numbers. And Carl has shown that he has. I mean, he's going into his 5th year, I believe, maybe his 6th year. He's produced about 4.5 sacks a year. Recently just signed that Raiders contract, 3 years, $25 million. So, he's certainly worthy of a roster spot, and I hope he gets all the support that he needs. And it sounds like he is. And I'm glad that he was able and comfortable to come out like that.
Yeah, I don't know, speaking a bit earlier, I said Oakland Raiders, still thinking about the good old days over there. Las Vegas Raiders, of course. Elsie, what are your thoughts over here with Carl Nassib coming out as gay, which is great news, as you'd said?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with what Oliver said. And I think I have 2 things to say. One, I wonder how the NFL has learned from sort of its most recent controversial, social issues, which obviously started by Kaepernick and the whole Black Lives Matter movement, which with the NFL it's still an ongoing thing, right? Like that's not even a solved thing. So I wonder how the NFL has learned, if anything, to deal with social issues as a league that has never been seen as in the vanguard, right, of those issues. But number 2 is of course all the public messages are going to be positive. I'm really curious to see how fans from other teams, when he's playing away, react. And I say that hoping that it's not a problem, but knowing that crowds can get really hurtful. Crowds can get really targeting. They can do, things that they think they're all anonymous, right? Because you're in a group of 40,000 people, 80,000 people, like I can say whatever. And I really hope that we don't see some of the things that we've seen, for example, in soccer. We've seen racism, homophobia, xenophobia. We've seen every type of discrimination from the fans. And I really hope that the fans and the people who are in the same building when other people are doing those things can be the ones saying like, hey, even though this is our stadium, we don't do that here. So I'm more curious to see what happens in the stands than sort of in the public eye. I think in the public eye, everyone sort of like knows how to handle these situations now, but I'm really curious to see how the people in general are able to just treat them like any other player, and like a player who's just talking about his sexuality, which has of course nothing to do with what he does and on the field. So
right,
that's what I'm curious about.
That's a really good point. I did not even think about it from the stand perspective, because once you mix some alcohol in with maybe your team losing, and who knows, maybe some slurs could fly out. Hopefully not, but I could easily see it happening, unfortunately. Kadeen, what do you think?
We're not there yet. We're still this is all works in progress. Like I think they're baby steps in the right direction. I can't help but just what you were saying as far as the NFL and what they've learned for social justice and issues. Not a goddamn thing. Their business, and
that's
it's
what
anything
I said,
that means anything from a dollar standpoint.
Yeah.
It does speak highly that his jersey is now the number one selling jersey right after he made the announcement. Like on all the websites and everything, it's flying off the shelves. That is a key thing. But then I look at the NFL and how problematic they are and saying, oh shit, well, now we got a financial incentive for people to come out. So maybe that's the way they go about it. I don't know if that is what facilitates change. I will say overall, I am liking what I've been seeing over the public discourse recently, just in the sense of sports when it comes to what I think is a huge issue, which is just toxic masculinity. And I think when you have guys like in the NBA, when you have Kevin Love coming out and talking about his mental health issues, when you have in the NFL, you have whose quarterback did I brought it up? Dak Prescott, that talks about what he's going through. That to me are all steps in the right direction as far as the conversation that occurs, especially in a league that's majority black. And as a black man, I know that these are issues as far as people being able to come out and talk about these things without getting lambasted. I'll be the first to admit, I'm in a group text thread right now with a bunch of guys. One of the guys in that text thread is a Raiders fan. Off the rip, 20 gay jokes, off the bat. Even a problematic Penn State connection, which I don't even want you anywhere near it. But it's just, you got, like, they can't help themselves but to crack the jokes. Like, what you're saying from a fan perspective, look, we still got a long way to go.
And that's exactly why that came to mind, because I'm like, ooh.
It takes the first step.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that right here with him and the way that publicly people are rallying around him is good. And it should hopefully make the next guy that much more comfortable to do it. But we're very early on. I don't want anybody to get it twisted. We are extremely early on.
And what I said, I'm not saying like, oh, and he should have thought about that because now he's going to have this negative repercussion. Like, of course, that's not what I mean. But I do fear, of course, like I think you're making a similar assessment of the fans, if you want to put them in a bag. Like, I do fear for what people at their worst, which is, like I said, with alcohol, losing and having no target are. I do fear a little bit for what that could be. And I hope that people around those usually, worst kinds of individuals can sometimes try to make them not show the worst of themselves. But I agree with you, Kadeen, and like I'm not super optimistic about it, but I'm hopeful. But I am curious to see what comes out of that.
And I think we can draw some hope from the jersey sales, because that certainly would not have been the case some years in the past. Matt, you want to round us out over here? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, a lot of good points across the board. I mean, I don't have a fear of fans. It's a certainty that fans are going to say dumb stuff. I mean, for sure, that's how it goes when there's, but you hope that they are the exception. I think they will be. Although we have seen recent cases, in the CONCACAF, with homophobic slurs and whatnot. But I do think they will be in the minority. And hopefully they get drowned out. Hopefully, because what he did is a tough thing. And we're talking about the major sports. If there's one that has, you said toxic masculinity tied to it the closest, you would probably say it's the NFL. So the fact that it's coming out in that league certainly could not have been an easy thing to do. And for him to go through it is he has to have a lot of courage to do that. And yeah, the sport's been great. And I think for the most part, I think the people closest to him, I think, will support him. And then you're just going to have terrible people, making jokes, and hopefully you can power through that. But but it is still step, if it's not step one, it's like an early step 2 of like a 20-step process. So
yeah,
hopefully we'll get there.
Yeah. And so just to echo Oliver's sentiments, congratulations to Carl Nassib for having the, strength, courage to do that, because he also cited statistics about suicide rates you know, when you do keep that to yourself and when you don't feel you can trust an adult. And so he's not only doing this for himself, he's doing this to pave a road for those that do worry about it and don't feel they can confide in anybody. So really proud of him, and he's making the world a better place with this. It's not as simple as, hey, I'm gay. He has really thought this through, and I personally am so thankful we have someone like him in the world. So congratulations, Carl. And on a local flavor, Kumi Yokoyama, a Washington Spirit player, has come out as transgender. So they had top surgery 7-8 years ago when they were 20 years old. And in order to continue playing in the NWSL, is refusing hormone treatment until the end of their career. Once that happens, then they will transition fully into being a man. But congratulations to Kumi as well, because that's a big deal with the Tokyo Olympics coming up. They are Japanese, so it's a really big deal. And congratulations to Kumi Yokoyama as well, who has received an abundance of support from the Washington Spirit and across the league as well. So we're about to jump into the State of the Union, and I want to begin with Kadeen with the Washington football team. Go ahead, Kadeen. Any update this week?
Pretty much nothing other than Taylor Heineke's looking like the real deal, guys.
Here we go.
We're hearing Kurt Warner comparisons. I mean, I don't want to speak too soon, but if that's the case, Super Bowl, here we come.
It is June.
This is our time really to shine, right? But I mean, what we're seeing at Benjamin St. Juste is looking really good on the defensive side, and then what we're hearing on offense, Ryan Fitzpatrick is going to be the guy. But knowing that, look, he can be really streaky. If that is the case, it's looking good that we're going to have a quarterback room of guys that are going to be competent. And I can't see anybody looking on paper for this team and not saying that we're better than we were last year. And at least the quarterback room is moving in the right direction. So I feel good.
Oliver, I'm curious about your take. What are your thoughts on the QB controversy? What are your thoughts on Fitzpatrick, Taylor Heineke, et cetera? Go ahead.
No controversy at all. I love where we're at. We've got the vet who seems to be playing as he ages, which is weird and unusual, although there's a guy in Tampa that's also doing something similar. But no, love where we're at and having Heineke off the bench. I love, the guts, the courage, gunslinging it. I want it all. I want that as my QB. We're definitely better than I think everybody else in the NFC East, and certainly going to be better than anybody that Detroit puts out there. So high confidence in the football team this year. I do think we'll repeat, and hopefully, as Kadeen said, we do look a lot better on paper this year than we did last, and that defense is still super strong.
Can I do a way too early dollar bet that's not part of the State of the Union, but I just want to kind of get a match shit? This might change, but right now, I got Matthew Stafford winning NFL MVP next year.
Oh, is that dollar bet against me? Is that
wow?
Is that
you want
towards
it,
me?
do you want
I
it?
kind of want that too. Hold
Do you
on.
want it? Who wants it? Who wants a piece? I think
I'm not gonna
stud.
bet against Stafford. I love Stafford.
I
want him to win MVP.
I am in there.
I
I am
think
in there.
you're in-
He is not
I think-
NFL MVP next
I
year.
think that there is a boost to one's ability once you leave Detroit. And I am betting on this. Same way, if Barry Sanders were able to get away, if Calvin Johnson was able to get away, they wouldn't. Come on. But I really think.
Yes. What's that based on? What players have performed way better when leaving Detroit?
Blake Griffin. I'm sticking with the
right off the bat.
Blake.
Right off.
He didn't know how to dunk. Now he knows how to dunk again. I'm just saying.
I also support Blake. I was rooting for Blake. Kind of.
He asked for an example. You got an example immediately.
In a different fucking sport.
You said Detroit. You didn't say.
Y'all don't let your guys go.
I don't doubt that Matt Stafford would be an MVP candidate, but I don't think he'll end up winning it.
I got him win MVP.
Yeah.
I like Sean McVay.
I like that though. I do like that. So I'm in on that. Anybody else in on that?
I got a dollar bet. I'll say it again. Washington football team will not make the playoffs.
I'll take the dollar.
I'm still
I'll take
on
the
that.
dollar. I'm gonna forget about these anyway. Yeah, I'll take the dollar. That sounds great.
I'll take the dollar so that I watch some football.
There you
All
go.
Let's do once we have one going in next week, although I won't be there because I'm going on vacation starting tomorrow.
Okay.
Let's do
Oliver, we'll have you back on.
who wins game 2, Clippers Suns. I got Clippers.
Clippers, Suns. I'm going Suns. This is at the time of this recording. So by the time you see this, game's already over. I'll take that. I'll go with the Suns. Oliver, do you want in? Do you want in on the board?
I know I'm a guest, so am I allowed? Is this
You are allowed.
the rules?
You're
allowed.
Dean, I'll take that $1 bet with you. And Matt certainly would take that $1 bet. I think the Suns are going to win. The Clippers seem very comfortable going down 0-2.
True.
That's
So
fair.
I think they're going to stick with that pattern. I just hope they don't let Terrence Mann score 30-plus points, because they are 1-0 when he does score 30-plus points.
That is a great stat, Oliver. That is a very good point. When
I
Terrence
also
Mann
got,
goes
I
down,
also got
fuck
Clippers
off.
in that series if anyone wants to take it.
Suns.
I'll take it. All right, take it again. All right. Phoenix Suns.
I
feel
want
like
to,
they're
but
too
I'm
hot.
not that confident yet. I really think I think the Clippers just.
Dog, I don't think the Suns have lost in 3 weeks.
I know.
I
but
gotta go with those guys.
Paul George might be back. It might be
They're
a fucking-
playing
That's
against
true.
some bad
He
players.
could be
They're
back, but
playing
the
against
moment
some bad
if
Mane.
Kawhi comes back, then Paul George disappears again. That's just how
That
it
is
goes.
true.
So I'm not
Cancel
you
each
know,
other out.
Yeah. So Reggie
It's-
Jackson's playing great though.
Yeah,
He's
yeah,
playing
great
really,
game.
really well.
Maybe-
But
Maybe he should have been your example of people that leave Detroit and get better.
that's true. Just another basketball player. So anyway, but let's move on to the rest of the State of the Union. Elsie, is there any Old Glory update or no?
Yes, sir. So actually, last week they had a bye, which is why we didn't have the podcast, of course. And that's the only reason.
Of course, of course.
But they are playing again this upcoming week. It'll be Saturday, June 26th. They're playing at Rugby ATL, which is Atlanta. Atlanta is fighting to clinch. There's only 2 spots in the playoffs per conference. There's 2 conferences. They are currently second, so they will be coming out. Definitely trying to win. And in rugby, it actually matters how many tries you score. So if you score 4 or more tries, you get a bonus point for the standings. So they will be coming out with everything they got. So a chance for Old Glory to try to, sometimes it's good to play against somebody who's got some stake in the game, and you try to just not let them have it. So it'll be a chance for them. Old Glory is totally out of the playoffs. So obviously this is just some games to keep improving. And yeah, we'll see what happens. There's only a few more games left. So if you want to get tickets, they're maybe a little bit cheaper at the end of the season. They are not on any major network this week, but if you have for some reason the rugby network, they will be playing the rugby game. So that's the update on the Old Glory.
Okay, thank you for the Old Glory update. I'm now going to burn through the rest of DC sports over here.
Can I hit? Oh no, my God. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
No,
What
no,
you got?
go. You go.
Okay.
Wait, hang on. That being said, I do have to bounce.
And Regan is out. You don't want to hear
guys.
this?
Ollie, thanks for hopping on.
You'll give us a view.
Yeah, I'll give you a like.
Best thing to
subscribe,
ever come out of
please.
Detroit is probably Werner's, the ginger ale. I think that.
Great call. That's a great call.
I think that's
a great call. All right. See you guys.
All right, see you, Matt. All right, cool. So here is your official State of the Union, your DC Sports wraparound coverage segment. You got the football team update from KDOT. You got the Old Glory update from LC. Now, with the Washington Nationals, they have been on an absolute tear recently. They've won 7 of their last 8 games, including taking 3 of 4 from the NL East leading New York Mets. The Nats are now in 3rd place in the NL East, just behind the Philadelphia Phillies, who they have a series with just now. Kyle Schwarber has hit 5 home runs in his last 2 games, tying an MLB record, which earned him NL Player of the Week. And Max Scherzer was hurt, but he has been reinstated from the injured list. So all signs are pointing up for the Washington Nationals. And Gerardo Parra is back, Mr. Baby Shark himself. So everything, we are in an era of good feelings right now with the Washington Nationals. Up next, as I had said, at the Phillies, just a game back of them in a 3-game series, then at the Marlins, another 3-game series, and then one big game at home against the New York Mets on Monday. All games can be seen on the Mid-Atlantic Sports Network. On to women's basketball. The Washington Mystics have also enjoyed themselves recently, winning 3 of their last 4, but the injury bug has bit them really, really hard. Maisha Hines-Allen and Natasha Cloud, both our starters for the team, are now going to miss some games here. So that's terrible timing for the injuries, especially because Elena Deladon is still out with no timetable for her return. In better news, Ariel Atkins and Tina Charles are going to be representing Team USA at the Tokyo Olympics. So congratulations to Ariel and Tina, and congratulations to Emma Miesemann, who is currently playing abroad but is a Washington Mystics member. She is representing Belgium at the Tokyo Olympics. So lots of Washington Mystics are playing in the summer games. Up next, we have a 3-game road trip beginning at Seattle at the time of this recording, They are 12-2. So the Seattle Storm are incredible. Breanna Stewart, their best player there. Then the LA Sparks at 10:30 p.m. on Thursday. And then Saturday at the Dallas Wings at 1 p.m. Nationally televised game on CBS. DC United men's soccer enjoyed another win over Inter Miami, this time 1-0. Thanks to a penalty scored by Ola Kamara in the 72nd minute. Inter Miami went down to 9 men in that game. So only 1-0, but you take the 3 points. So good stuff for DC United. They are now in 6th place in the Eastern Conference and are on a 2-game winning streak. Both those wins in the streak coming against Inter Miami. Up next tonight at 8 p.m. against the Montreal Impact, and then on Sunday against New York City FC at 6 p.m. The games can be seen on NBC Sports Washington, DCUnited.com, or on ESPN+. So many ways to watch there. Now, Washington Spirit women's soccer 1-1 draw to the Chicago Red Stars this past weekend. Future GOAT of U.S. soccer, Trinity Rodman, got herself her first ever NWSL regular season goal against current starting goalkeeper for the U.S. women's national team, Alyssa Nair. So a huge moment for Trinity Rodman, and then wouldn't you know it, 91st minute, we give up a penalty. They end up scoring. Morgan Gautrat, formerly known as Morgan Bryan, a U.S. women's national team player, scores the penalty for the Red Stars, 1-1 final. So that's now 3 games where the Washington Spirit have gone up 1-0 and ended up tying the game. If they had closed 2 of those games out, they're in first place right now. 3 of those games out, they're in first place right now. Instead, they are in 3rd place, which is still pretty good. Also, big news, as I'd said, Kumi Yokoyama has come out as transgender, and congratulations again to Kumi. That is amazing news and very brave as well. We are all rooting for you with the rest of your career. And then afterwards, once the hormone treatments, of course, kick in and make sure everything goes safely there and the transition. Up next, Kansas City on the road at 8:30 p.m. this Saturday. The game can be seen on Twitch, actually. And Kansas City is in last place. So a golden opportunity to get 3 points here. Now, finally, the Washington Wizards. And I'm so excited to give this update. We were off last week. Scott Brooks is no longer the coach of the Washington Wizards, and I have never felt more optimistic about this team. Our coaching search is ongoing, and names like Wes Unseld Jr., Sam Cassell, and Becky Hammond have been thrown out there, and I'm sure many more as Tommy Shepard, the GM of the team, continues that search. Additionally, Bradley Beal is going to be representing the United States for Team USA at the Olympics. This is the first time ever a Washington Wizard is going to be representing Team USA at the Olympics. So congratulations to Bradley. And of course, congratulations to Rui. The games are in Tokyo. He is Japanese, so he will be representing Japan in the Olympics. And that's all I've got for you guys. And this is District Divided. And Kadeen, what do you want to say?
Want to wish a speedy recovery for H.D. Woodson's Jalen Twyman, who got shot in D.C. The last couple days. Summer just started. Be safe out here. It's going to be a wild fucking summer, guys. Wild summer.
No, very good point. Thank you for mentioning that, Kadeen. Of course, he was shot 4 times visiting his aunt here in D.C. It is summertime, so people are out. People have been waiting because of COVID, so just be careful, as he said. But once again, this is District Divided. I'm saying that was K-Dot you just heard from. That is LC, and that is Oliver Samuel Jacobus, Oliver Sam Jack. Thank you so much for joining us today. And we're probably going to have you on next week if you're open to it. I hope you had a good time. And we will see you all next week. Next Wednesday, 3 p.m. is when we normally release. Take it easy, y'all.